Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I have a script, but before starting with a script, I would like to thank to few ladies because we are very grateful to have all of you here and to organize this event. I will start with Ms. Ana Maria Mihaescu. Also, I would like to mention Irina Angel Enescu. She will be the speaker in the second panel. Kasia Marianuk from CFA Institute. To my colleagues, Alexandra SMEDOIU, Maria Duduman, Andreea Nica, and also to the board members of CFA Society Romania. The last but not the least, to Paul Smith, because he's here. I'm sure that we are going to have an amazing day today. I feel very fortunate to have the opportunity to hear the speeches and the discussions today. Some of the brightest people in the financial sector join us today, are here. I will make sure that everything goes perfect and you will be able to enjoy the conference. Therefore, anything you want to complain about, I am here for you, for complaints, but not only. I am Florentina Almăjanu, the Director General of CFA Society Romania. I'm working for this wonderful people and wonderful society for more than 11 years. That being said, please allow me to introduce Mr. Adrian CODIRLASU, CFA, the President of CFA Society Romania. Adrian CODIRLASU is a senior banker with over 20 years of experience in banking and financial markets, and he holds the CFA designation since 2006. Adrian also holds the title of Doctor of Economics with specialization in international finance. In addition, Adrian is an associate professor with Dauphine and CEFIN, Center for Advanced Research in Finance, where he teaches subjects such as econometrics, derivatives, fixed income, and risk management. This it means like Chinese for me. Adrian has been a member of CFA Romanian Board of Directors as well as the association's president in 2009-2011 and starting with 2015 till present. I have emotions. Okay, that's all about Adrian for the moment.
Thank you, Florentina. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I wish I could be the brilliant speaker deserved by these many amazing and inspiring people that are here today. Unfortunately, I'm not. I do have over 20 years of experience in working in financial industry, and for a good part of this experience, 12 years to be exact, I was part in various positions in the CFA board of Romania. Now I'm the president of CFA Romania. Since I joined the board 12 years ago, CFA Romania grew of about 10 times. And now it is one of the most important professional associations in the Romanian financial market. For example, the CFA Romania Macroeconomic Confidence Index and CFA Romania Survey are hopefully known to everybody here. They are largely covered by the media. Currently, CFA Romania has over 230 members, most of which being in senior position in the Romanian financial industry, including on CEO positions. The 3 exams, 6 hours each, considered by the media the most brutal exam in financial industry, are the price to be paid to become a member of CFA community. The benefits nevertheless are many, and being part of a group of truly dedicated and inspiring professionals, GIGs, is one of them. At the same time, the membership position in our organization ensure access to a global community of over 150,000 finance professionals, which are members of CFA Institute. Why should you be part of CFA Romania community? First of all, it's network. You will have access to many of the best financial networks of professionals in Romania. Second is the statute, which is confirmed by the high professional and integrity standards given by the CFA exams. And third, visibility. CFA Romania organizes on average 1 event per month, even more, and we also take part in CFA Institute events. Returning to the conference, considering that Romania has the 3rd lowest employment rate among women in the European Union, 4 out of 10 Romanian women have managed the risk of poverty or social exclusion, and if we are looking to politics, less than 20% of the members of the Romanian Parliament are women. I am proud that in Romania, in CFA Society Romania, 40% of the members are women, which placed us on the 2nd place in the world among CFA societies affiliated to CFA Institute. CFA Romania is a strong supporter and promoter of diversity. We consider that diversity, along with free exchange of ideas, will make us better, stronger, and significantly smarter. This is the reason why we are organizing this conference. We invited leaders from the private sector, from international institutions and financial industry, which will address topics such as financial independence, education, and leadership. In the second part of the day, after the conference, we will have running in parallel 2 workshops. One is how to break our habitual thinking, and the second one is on mindfulness, the power of presence. But before I close my speech, I want to present you a special member of our association. She's a leadership scholar and educator. She was one of the first members of CFA Romania and also a president of CFA Romania. She spent nearly 2 decades in C-suite as CFO and later CEO in the financial services industry with organizations such as ING and MetLife. And she's particularly interested in bridging academic and practitioner perspective on leadership. For her PhD dissertation at the VU University in Amsterdam, she focused on the subject as leaders' passionate hobbies, formerly known as serious leisure, and interviewed for this occasion numerous CEOs of major corporations. Her research has been featured on Harvard Business Review and nominated for the Academy of Management Award. She is an inspiring speaker for executive investment as well for wider audiences. She has been on a tour of CFA societies in CEE, which her talk Play Can Pay, and her recent TEDx talk at London Business School, Why Leaders Should Take Their Leisure Seriously, has received wide acclaim. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Emilia Bună. At the end, I want to mention our partners, that without their support, it would have been very difficult to us to organize this conference. The gold partner is Schroders. The silver partners are Banca Comercială Română and Erste Asset Management. Institutional partners are Asociația Administratorilor de Fonduri din România, Asociația Analiștilor Financiari Bancari din România, American Chambers of Commerce in Romania, Asociația pentru Pensiile Administrate Privat din România, Asociația Română a Băncilor, Asociația pentru Relații cu Investitorii la Bursă din România, Asociația Trezorierilor din România, Bursa de Valori București, Global Shapers Community Bucharest, HR Club, Professional Women Networks Romania, Romanian Business Leaders, Uniunea Națională a Societăților de Asigurare și Reasigurare din România, Asociația Profesională a Intermediarilor și Consultanților în Asigurări. The media partner of the event is Media Exprim. Thank you.
I have the pleasure to introduce you the keynote speaker of our event, Mrs. Cristina Verșere, CEO of OMV. Thank you, Cristina, for being here. Cristina holds a master's degree in economic science from the University of Aberdeen, Scotland. She started her career in 1993 and has spent over 20 years with an oil and gas supermajor, where she held numerous leadership positions in the UK, US, and Canada, and Indonesia. She was appointed Chief Executive Officer and President of the Executive Board of OMV Petrom starting with 1st May 2018. Few words about OMV Petrom. Largest player in Romania, turnover 4.8 billion euro in 2018. Largest integrated energy company in CEE. Largest private investor in Romania. Cristina, please. The last but not the least. For the upcoming dialogue, I would like to introduce you Mr. Paul Smith, CFA, the President and the CEO of CFA Institute. Paul Smith leads CFA Institute in promoting the highest standards of education, ethics, and professional excellence in the investment professional. Smith joined CFA Institute in 2012 and Managing Director for Asia Pacific, overseeing its expansion into China and India. He later assumed the leadership in its institutional partnership division, which is responsible for emerging with key firms, groups, and associations in the global investment industry. He was appointed President and CEO in January 2015. He's a CFA charter holder and a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales. Smith holds a master's degree in history from Oxford University. Paul?
Good morning, everybody. Very nice to see you all. Great room, and good to kind of be starting on time, which I understand is something of a rarity here in Romania. So it's good to be here, and a huge pleasure to have Cristina with us. One more word of thanks really to Florentina, who's done a fabulous job and I know has exhausted herself emotionally. So a big round of applause for Florentina. Please prepare your questions. Cristina has asked that we leave plenty of time at the end for Q&A. And no subject is out of bounds, so very happy to answer questions about the oil industry and about OMV in particular. So we're a room full of smart analysts, so let's prove that, I guess. But my job is really to ask the setup question. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background. You're not Romanian, and obviously that will become apparent as you talk about that. What led you to Romania? What led you to the oil and gas industry?
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. And it's a real honor and privilege to be here. So thank you very much for the invitation. There's three subjects I feel quite passionate about, and one: energy, leadership, and actually inclusion. And inclusion comes to diversity, and in this instance into gender. So it's a fantastic opportunity to spend some time talking about all three of these. Energy, as you said, I've been in the energy industry my entire career, 25 years, all over the world. And what I have learned is, to me, and hopefully to all of us, it's an industry that matters. Because actually life doesn't function without it. Right? And sometimes you get to go around the world, and even here in Romania, and see people who don't have access to it. And then it reminds you how important it is to make the world function in that. We need it to heat our homes, we need it to move our cars, and we need it probably to charge our iPhones and keep us connected. Our job in the energy sector and what we see from society is you want it as reasonably priced as possible, and you want it as clean as possible. And these are the challenges that we face in our sector in being able to deliver that for you. So why did I come to Romania? I've been in Romania just over 1 year. It has been a privilege to come here. 3 things attracted me to it. One is the role itself. It's a CEO role. I'm an upstream person. OMV Petrom, as many of you may well know, is both an upstream and downstream company. So the aspect of the value chain really appealed to me in that. And to some degree, you lot. And that's because this is a company that is listed on the stock exchange, so capital markets was a part that also attracted me to it. The company itself, it is a company that is a part of the social fabric of Romania. You know that probably more than I do, but it's one I have learned. It's one that matters to the country. And I was having a conversation earlier with a lady that was sort of talking about the sustainability report, and sort of it was one of the first companies to do that. It is a company that sort of charted its path here in Romania, so it is a company that matters here. And then there is Romania. Why Romania? And I will be honest, I've said this to me, I didn't really know much about Romania before I saw the opportunity for the job. But I've learnt a lot about Romania. And firstly, it's an emerging economy. Right? It has huge opportunity and potential. And when you then combine that with energy, it matters and it's moving forward. And there's something very exciting about being part of an emerging economy full of opportunity and prosperity and being able to come and contribute to that. Because I think we've mentioned before, purpose is really important in life. And an emerging economy has that. So. And then I've been here now 1 year. It's a very warm country. People are very welcoming. It's very dynamic. I got asked after 1 year, 3 words to describe my first year. I said it is a country full of possibility. It is a country full of passion. And it's a year that's had some frustrations, of course. But those are the 3 that I would say. Maybe that starts a little bit of the conversation of why I'm in the oil and gas industry and why I'm here. And again, it's an honor to be here talking to you this morning.
As most of us here are analysts, we know, a few years ago in Black Sea was discovered the big resources of gas. So currently, OMV Petrom stays in front of a big decision to invest, to develop these resources. Christina, can you comment on this?
Yes. So firstly, for those maybe in the room who aren't from Romania, I think Romania sits on a huge opportunity with the development of the Black Sea. And having been around the world, it is the envy to have access to energy security, which is what the development of the Black Sea has the potential to do. It will also, at the same time, bring jobs, as well as energy security. It will bring revenue to the state, and has the potential to put Romania as a key energy player to the region as well. So it is a huge opportunity. It is a huge opportunity for the country, and it is a huge opportunity for OMV Petrom. There's no doubt about that. So just a little bit of background to it. It's a discovered and appraised resource. That means we're ready to make the investment decision because we have a basic idea, technically, what we believe the size of the resource is and the range of uncertainty that exists in any subsurface project in that. And we have an idea how we'd like to do the development. So we are, in that regard, ready to go. But with big gas development projects, there are other aspects that are part of that, often around the fiscal regulatory aspects, around infrastructure and how the markets will work. So where we are right now is we are working those conversations. We are keen very much to move forward, and we are in dialogue with the government. You may have heard me say this, but I will use the opportunity to. Fiscal and regulatory clarity and stability, a liberalized gas market and key infrastructure is what we're working towards. And we are working it very hard, I can assure you of that. I think what we do see is there is alignment in the country that this needs to be developed. And so now we work to continue to do that. So everybody wants a date. I can never give a date, but it is my top priority. It is what I spend most of my time on.
You mentioned one of the attractions of the role was the public company nature. I'm sure everyone in the audience would love to know how that's played out for you over the last 12 months, what you've enjoyed about that, and perhaps what the frustrations are. I can imagine there are immense frustrations and challenges, but tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that, first of all, what you learn is in a CEO role, you have many different stakeholders, right, and many different groups that want to hear your perspective, so clearly the capital markets is a key part of that. They are always interested in the fundamental performance of the firm, but really what the growth is, what the potential is, what's coming next. So there's not just, I think, most of that does tend to be around the Neptune and the Black Sea, but also the underlying performance of the firm, how capital being used, the costs that are they being effectively managed, what's the potential, what's the markets, and then Romania as a place to invest in that. And you become a voice to outside of Romania for Romania as one of the largest companies listed on the stock market. So you play a role, I think, in that. And I think that has been quite important because it's been a turbulent time in this last year. And so part of you is to give voice to some degree what's going on inside the country and the route march that the country is taking forward and the opportunities. So it comes back to, you start to talk about the opportunities to the capital markets, the passion and the determination to move them forward, I would say.
Petrom is one of the biggest employers in Romania. How does the company stand in terms of diversity and women participation?
Yeah, I think that, so most of you will know my predecessor, Mariana Gorghe, and it was a huge honor actually to follow in her footsteps, right? So firstly, this is a company that has been led by a woman for the last 12 years before that, and I think she was a pioneer actually, for taking Petrom forward after privatization. So it's a company that has a track record right at the top. Our board is 5 people. We are a diverse board, so I won't just talk about gender, but I'll talk about diversity. We are diverse in that we are 2 women and 3 men. We are diverse in that we are 4 nationalities in that. And we are diverse in which of us have come from outside the company and which have been homegrown within the company as well. So I think we are a good mix. In our management levels, on our top 2 management levels, we are about 25% female. Right? For an oil and gas firm, actually that's quite strong because in the end, fundamentally we're engineering, and what we continue to see is the challenge of how many girls going into engineering, into the science, technology, and mathematics. And then our challenge as an industry is can we attract them once they're educated into our industry. Right? So although our numbers are good, actually when you peel it back a bit, we have the same challenges as most engineering firms. In that in the corporate functions, in the business functions, actually we have quite high percentages, but actually when you look into the line in the businesses, actually we have less women. So we have some of the similar challenges I think that other firms have, but at the top of the house we have good representation.
Just following up on that point, young women particularly, our research shows anyway, like a sense of purpose, very committed to ESG. How do you think about environmental? You touched upon clean energy. Does that hold you back in terms of attracting young women, do you think? Or is that part of the appeal? Is that part of your narrative to young women that they should come into this industry and help you change it, save the planet, all those good things?
So there's 2 or 3 things in there. I think sense of purpose is really important. And actually what I actually admire, I'm not sure this gender, what I admire about the millennial generation is what they want. I think most of us that are a bit older also want, but they have the guts to say they want it and expect it. And for me that is, they want a sense of purpose, that what they're working for is in service of something bigger than the bottom line, that they want a fulfilling career and that they can contribute, right? And a sense of development that goes with that. And they want a good line manager. And I actually think most of us actually want that. What I like about the millennial generation is actually they demand it. If they don't, they vote with their feet. And I think that as leaders and as corporations is keeping us on our toes and is forcing us to say, are we really good with our people development? So for me, sense of purpose is something that has evolved over time in my career, in understanding what energy does and the role that it plays. And it is our job and my job to instill that in the next generation coming forward as to why they should work for an energy company. Right? I think sometimes we have to balance. The challenge for OMV Petrom is scale and presence, and therefore we're big, and our job is not to get arrogant and complacent with that, right? In attracting the next generation into the workplace, right? And then to entice and motivate. So coming back to the point with regards to sustainability. First of all, our job in society actually is to make sure there is energy. And in places in the world you can see there isn't. So first of all, we need to make sure there's energy, as cost effective and as clean as possible in that. And we continue to work on the environmental footprint. And we announced this morning, and I'm going to have to shoot off to a press conference actually, because one of the areas we're looking at is energy efficiency. Right? This is a product that actually you do want to use responsibly. Right? Partly actually because of its environmental footprint, and partly because of its cost. The price goes up, the price goes down. It's something that you want to be able to use efficiently, and we're going to be spending some money into a sponsorship to help encourage and really look at what does it take to drive the efficiency of that energy use here in Romania, because actually it's higher than in other countries, and we'd like to help continue to bring it down. I think sustainability is also about environment, but it's also about many other subjects, one of which actually is about gender. Right? Because in the end, what we continue to see is that women are big contributors in the world, and big economic contributors in the world, and we want to make sure that as a corporation, we are enabling women to develop in and to their full potential in our company as well.
Are we opening the room for questions?
I'm going to start with a question about Petrom, then we can move to the leadership and the women's role and the rest, which is much more fun, of course, for everybody here. Of course, this is a very important company for Romania, and of course we have huge gas resources. We know the challenges. Hopefully they will be solved, and hopefully you will be able to exploit it and to take it out of the bed of the sea. But then the next question is, Petrom used to be also a huge player in the petrochemical industry. And we know there are challenges also there, but as Romanian citizens this time, not necessarily as analysts, although it could be interesting also as analysts, because the margins are higher in that part of the industry. Do you see any potential for also developing that part instead of just selling the gas on the liberalized market?
So yeah, I think there's two things in there. I think one is about, first of all, I think the more opportunity there is to take the gas and keep the gas in Romania, the better, right? From a basic economic perspective, the closer your market, the better. It's quite simple, but I think it also has a multiplier effect and is good for Romania as well on that. With regards to Petrom, we are looking at some opportunities, right? We've talked about that. We're studying them right now to see what is possible. Where is the right place to take it down the value chain? I think whether that's Petrom or whether that's others, I think it's good if it can be. I also think that if the market is fulfilled, then we will look to find other markets to take the gas to. That brings revenue back to the country. But for us, the closest market we can take it is to Romania, and we'd like to do that. And we will look at some opportunities to see if we can.
Sorry, just a follow-up. So what you are basically saying is that you wouldn't do it necessarily for Petrom itself. So you don't see the benefit of increasing your margins by getting into petrochemicals.
Yeah. I think what I said is we're looking at opportunities. So we are looking at some, and this is a room full of analysts, so that's as far as I can say at this point in time. We're looking at them, right? So, but I think it's twofold. One is Petrom as the investor, and one is as a Romanian citizen. What does that mean for Romania? And I think that means others can look at it as well.
And coming back to the much more fun part for everybody here, which is about leadership and women and the role of women and everything. You've worked all over the world. And like the CFA Society here also mentioned, I believe that in Romania you have a higher proportion of women also in sciences and in engineering and in general in management and all over the place, which is good. But how do you see this continuing to be promoted, considering that many companies in Romania are actually subsidiaries or branches of multinationals, and we know very well that all over the world actually the proportion is much lower, and therefore the opportunities for all these bright ladies here to move up the chain within the multinationals is very limited.
So I've come from working in a multinational and I've been, as I said, in quite a few countries around the world. I think this is a topic that gets more and more conversation. This is not a conversation about gender just here. I think it's happening all over the world. And the other thing you do see actually is there is a lot of questions about sustainability with regards to environment, but there are questions about sustainability being asked to multinationals and big corporations with regards to representation, one of which is gender, right? So I think that question is getting asked more and more, right? And you see more and more companies and multinational companies focusing on this, right? I look at, there's four aspects that we think of when we think about gender, right? And, you know, first of all, healthcare, access to healthcare for women, access to education, access to employment, and then, as we were talking about, what's the level of representation for women in policy-making decisions, right? Within the corporate world and the business world, I see more and more questions being asked about this, right? And that happens at the top level, which drives it through corporations. So that's why I think the multinationals, you can see more and more in this space, which I think therefore drives the opportunity. What I think is great for the Romanian women who are in the workplace is the skills they have, therefore, to compete for those jobs. I think it's a big topic. It's a big topic, and therefore I think it's getting a lot of profile.
Christina, you sit in a board where there are 2 women. However, that's not that common. Actually, it's quite rare. What would you advise companies, large companies, who select their board composition?
Sorry, can you just say that?
What would you advise companies who look at their board composition or when they select the board members?
First of all, I'll start with what I think is the most important, that you choose based on merit. Based on merit. Everybody who sits on their seat wants to have got there for what they bring to the table. Right? It is really important, I think, on that. The second thing I would say is when you're choosing, your panel of people involved in choosing should be diverse. Because we all look at people from our own perspective. Therefore, you need a diverse panel choosing those members of that board, right? Or any management team, or any team, actually, to look at that. So, because that enables the translations and the biases that we all naturally have to get equalized in some form or fashion. The second thing I say is don't declare success when you have one, whatever one version is, right? Because actually one on a board, whether it's one woman, one minority, it's a lonely place, right? And maybe it's not as effective as when you go beyond one. And I can feel that in my own experience when I've been the only woman on a management team, and then what it's felt like when there's been a second woman on the management team, my voice got louder, right? It just did, it got more effective, right, as a result of that. So I think that would be my other. So first of all, merit. Second of all, a diverse panel. Third, don't declare one and say that you've got diversity because actually you're not getting the full benefit of diversity of thought. And in the end, what we're talking about here is diversity of thought, diversity of approach, ultimately to improve business outcome. So that would maybe be some of the ideas that I would suggest.
My name is Divya and I work for the CFA Institute out of the London office. So we've been doing a lot of research in the diversity and inclusion space, and one of the themes that emerges is including men in the dialogue. And like you rightly mentioned, talking about diversity of thought and expression rather than just gender diversity in general. I'd like to understand, has your firm done anything to include men in the discussion that has resulted in diversity like you've suggested, or do you have any thoughts of how men can be made, more part of the dialogue of diversity and inclusion in general?
I totally agree with you in this space, absolutely, on that. I think that, so I've run in the past the sort of global network for global women's network for a multinational firm. and we had the steering committee. And about 5, 6 years ago, we realized we were a bunch of women talking to a bunch of women about gender. And it was actually after Emma Watson did her UN speech on he for she. And we said, okay, actually, this is not actually that logical, right? Especially for a big, predominantly male-dominated industry. And we invited and had actually men come and sit on the steering committee, right? And if I had a few reflections of it, one, I think it enhanced the overall perspective on the topic, right, by having men in the conversation. It, from speaking to them, enhanced their understanding of some of the different issues that, that women were facing in the workplace. But what I really noticed is who was interested, which men were interested in the topic, right? And what you saw was men who maybe had a predominantly female workforce, and you saw also men who had daughters. They want to know that the future workplace is going to make their daughters be successful, right? And there is nothing greater than when you watch a parent interested in a subject in the workplace. And so I totally agree with you. I think it's really important. And for all the men sitting in the room, of which I have 2 on either side, thank you for being in the conversation. I think the other thing I learned is a lot of the topics that you end up looking about with regards to gender in the workplace actually are not always about gender, but about style, right? And they can be about work-life balance, and those are not always just for women. There's a whole conversation about parenting and work-life balance for men as well, right? What does it mean to take parental leave? Are more fathers taking leave? So I think what we find often is the gender space is charting a path that is not always just for women either, and that also brings men into the conversation. So I'm a big, big believer of men in the conversation.
Christina, have you found maybe earlier in your career, have you found yourself in a minority? And have you found that you had to adapt your approach to survive and thrive in that context?
Absolutely, absolutely. But I think when I realize and I look back, I'm a person that's lived out of my birth country almost 60% of my life. So I think I've honed the skill of adaptability. So I spent the first 10 years, 12 years of my life in Asia as a child in Hong Kong and Japan, and then moved to the States, then did my secondary and university education back in the UK, and then went overseas and probably did most of my management and leadership growth in North America, and then went to Asia. So I'm used to moving countries, and I think that builds adaptability. The other thing I would also say, though, is having been in many different cultures around the world, people have a lot more in common than they have different. I think often the goal is to find the common ground, right? And sometimes we focus on the difference. But there's a lot more we have in common as human beings. In the end, what you find most people are either parents or to-be parents, and they're very focused on the nurturing of their children. That is the priority. The second priority is their extended family. Then they have their careers and their sense of purpose and independence that comes with that, right? We have a lot in common. Economic welfare for family, right? These things happen all over the world, doesn't matter what country that you are in. So I believe in finding the common, acknowledging the difference, but finding the common, right? So, but I've built a lot of adaptability. And part of that, I think, is about finding the common ground in what people have. And then walking in other people's shoes. I think it has taught me a lot. Because when you move countries, you walk in other people's shoes for a while, right? And it's an honor and privilege to do that as you understand what's created a society to be the way it is. And you grow as an individual massively when you walk in other societies and other cultures. It really does grow you. And I think that makes you more resilient for the next culture and the next place that you go to be able to do that. So I was talking earlier to someone else, and we talked about resilience is just part of, I think, charting a career, predominantly as a woman in a predominantly male industry, is a degree of resilience. But I think that actually might just be a skill for life, actually, that we need all of us, actually, now to be able
last question, please.
Hi. So, in your opinion, what is the one way that would make the biggest difference right now?
For women?
For women, yes. More inclusion, more gender balance, etc. The best way that would make a substantial difference.
I wish there was one thing. I wish there was. It isn't. It's multifaceted, actually, topic that has many things that need to come actually into it. I look at it, so I'm going to say, I'm not going to say I can give you one. I'm going to say there's three areas that I look at, and then there's one area that, from my experience, has made a difference for me. But I think there's three aspects that come into play. One is the societal norms, right? Second is the individual, and what does the individual want? And then in the workplace, what is the corporate culture? And the three overlap. It's a Venn diagram, right? Societal norms, biases, where support, family situations, extended family, do they encourage, do they not, do they support? Individual, what do we want? That's not always a question we know the answer to, but thinking about what we want, when we want it, how we want to get it, right? And then the corporate culture. And I will hone in on two, I think, that sit in the individual and sit in the corporate culture. The individual, for us as women, asking for what we want. We have a cautiousness. I want to be able to do 95% of the job before I do the job, right? We have to understand what we want and to ask for it. People are not mind readers, right? Corporate culture. We need to pull women through, right? We need to be bold and get comfortable, understand what certain women want, and then take chances on them. It must be based on merit, right? But what we continue to see is women have this cautiousness about wanting to be able to do 95% of a job before they apply. Somehow in the DNA, or somehow men didn't get that cautiousness. It's just the fact that research continues to show it. Therefore, we need to pull women a bit more. You can do this, really. And then when they're in those roles, support them. Support them. When you pull a high potential through, when you pull someone through in development, be pleased with yourself for having done it, but make sure you support them while they do it so they're successful in it. So because I don't think there is one. I wish there was one, but there isn't. But I think we are making progress across the world, right? I believe he for she, and I believe she for she too. So.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Adrian. We are very honored to have you here.
Thank you. It's a real honor to be here. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day. I think I've said to a few, there is some special aspects about Romania, and one of them is the strength of the women in the country. You should never underestimate that, and take courage and confidence from it for whatever the next set of challenges are. So thank you very much.
Thank you. On the beginning of the interactive session, Financial Education Setting the Ground for Independence, I would like to introduce Mrs. Alexandra SMEDOIU, CFA, the Vice President of CFA Society Romania. Alexandra is a partner with Deloitte Romania, and also she's a Charter Financial Analyst, Charter Holder, and Vice President of CFA Society Romania. Alexandra.
Thank you, Florentina. It's always good to hear people praise you. Good morning, everybody. This should be easy for me, right? My speech comes after the speeches of three presidents. Christina, CEO of largest company in Romania and such an inspiring speaker. Paul, President of CFA Institute, again, so glad to have you here. And our very own CODIRLASU, the president, and then after me comes a panel with some of the best professionals in our region. No pressure for me, right? After all, look at me. I'm young, kind of rich, probably by society standards, working for a huge multinational. Obviously a Starbucks fan, a rider of electric scooters. Who's best placed to speak about financial independence, right? Well, I see my friends who are supposed to laugh at my jokes are not in the room, but I'm waiting for them to arrive. Now, seriously, there is some serious consideration that we need to give to this aspect. And being a CFA charter holder for about 10 years, I've been working a lot with statistics and probabilities. And believe me, they are scary. As sure as it is that in 30 years' time, when probably I'll celebrate my 5th time of being 40, I guess, 1 in 3 persons will be retired, that is above 65 years old. Yeah, so who will support us? And that's European Commission statistics. And because I'm good with numbers, let me tell you one more thing. We, Romanians, and probably the other CEE countries as well, we're not very good at looking forward for the future. That is saving, or the saving behavior. Actually, by statistics, we spend more than we earn, and I think some ladies here in the room can concur with me, which means that we're not very good at planning for our future. Yeah? So who should take care of us? We at CFA Society, we stand for principles of responsibility and independence. And let me give you one more figure. They say that what we get in retirement income is roughly 1/4, so that's 25% of what we pay for during our adult life. So if we say we pay €1,000 a month in taxes, I told you I'm kind of rich, then this means we could get a pension of probably €250, right? So bye-bye Dolce Gabbana. This is not good news. So why save? First of all, because of risk. The risk that we will not be taken care of, and that's a risk we just can't ignore. Why save? Yeah? I'm sure that all of us who have children in the room would definitely like to be a burden for their children. I think they should suffer for all the sleepless nights they cause us and all the worries they put us through, right? Or would we rather be the hipster parent who is able to support their child when the child comes and says he wants to travel the world for a 1-year sabbatical? Who wouldn't want that, right? So before hearing to our wonderful panelists in the theme about financial education and setting the ground for financial independence, I have the honor here today to launch to a larger audience CFA Society's most recent project on financial education, and this is called Generation I. Generation I is being financially independent. It's about now and not tomorrow. It's about taking care for ourselves, so it's about me and not we. Generation I is about me, is about you and you and you. It's about every one of us. I would like you to invite to watch generațiaindependentă.ro is the website that we recently launched. Use all social media channels. Please like, share, Instagram, whatever you want to do with our website and with the posts that we will be doing there. Please talk to your friends. Please spread the word. And let's fulfill our generation's responsibility, because I think each generation had their own responsibility. Baby boomers, they had the responsibility to grow the world's population after the world wars. Generation I guess they invented electric bikes, specialty coffee, and why not man buns, right? So what's our generation's responsibility? We need to be financially responsible, and the first thing is to be financially independent. Now, I would like you to please stand up. Please, everybody stand up. Yeah, so Generation I is about us standing up and being financially independent. So thank you. So those of you who did not go to the gym this morning should be very happy right now. And without further ado, thank you so much for your patience. Please support our campaign as much as you can. And I would like to then welcome our special panelists, and please, Florentina, make such a wonderful presentation of them like you did for the rest of us. Thank you.
Thank you, all of you, to be here, to stand up, and to be with us on Generation I. Coming back to the interactive session, please welcome our moderator, Sanda, NICOLA. Sanda NICOLA is a journalist, television and radio creator, author of bestseller volume Identity Card that launched at Storybook in 2018, licensed in social science and political science at Open University in the UK. Sanda and her guests. Yes, please.
Thank you, and good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Florentina, for the kind words. Thanks, everybody, for giving me this unexpected opportunity to be part of such a wonderful event and to be part of such a large crowd of highly skilled professionals. It's an unexpected opportunity, and I would tell you immediately why, but maybe we should invite the other panelists to take their place. Please join me on stage. I don't want to be left alone. Are you sure? Miss Livia Ilie, Dina Vasic, Axinia Sorokina, Rita Eugenia Porzan, Mihai Burcărea. So, as you probably know, I mean the Romanian people in the audience, I'm not a journalist with a significant background in economics. I quite successfully covered terrorist attacks, foreign affairs, all sorts of elections. And every time I have a chance, I covered religious subjects. Yes, I'm very comfortable to approach a monk, a cardinal, even the Pope himself, but I have no idea what to say to a broker. So when Florentina called me and invited me to be part of this event, I said, what? Why me? I mean, this is way too much and awkward, but she was quite persistent, so I gave it some more thought and tried to understand why do I reject this idea after all. And then I remembered that during my long-time career as a journalist, there were several times when I was offered to work in the economics department or to be part of financial programs, and all the time said, no, thanks, but no thanks, that's not for me. I never felt smart enough to tell my viewers what to do with their money. I actually have headaches even pronouncing terms such as stakeholders, capital markets, acquisitions, and mergers. This is way too much for me. But as I said, Florentina forced me to give it some more thought. And at the end of the day, I had this revelation about myself. The painful truth about myself was that by constantly rejecting to work in the economics department and constantly rejecting to learn more, I was actually rejecting my own financial literacy. And people, my bank account, if you check it, will reflect that. So that's when I said, okay, I will show up that morning and I will try to finally put an end to this expensive ignorance. So here I am. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and let me introduce you to the panelists. And I have to make another big confession, because while reading the biographies of this distinguished guest that we have today, I felt silly so many times, because I don't fully understand what your jobs are about and what do you do for a living, but I'm about to find out. So please welcome Axinia Sorokina, CFA. She's a global SME banking specialist, IFC World Bank Group. Axinia is a financial sector professional with over 10 years of international experience in banking and consulting. Prior to joining IFC, Axinia worked at ING Bank, structuring investment transactions, in IBM, managing corporate finance activities, and World Economic Forum, conducting financial sector research. Axinia is a CFO chart holder, chart holder. Holds Masters in Financial Economics from New York University, and she is also a Fulbright and DAAD scholar. Thank you so much for being here. Axinia, can you tell us in the beginning, what does it mean to you to be financially independent?
First of all, thank you so much. I would like to thank the CFA Society of Romania for inviting me. It's my great pleasure. And being here, I'm part of another CFA Institute of Washington, D.C. However, being very closely connected with the CFA Institute of Turkey, where I'm currently residing, I just picked up a very interesting point from the previous speaker who mentioned, Christina mentioned that she's been living about 60% of her life overseas. In my personal case, it's only 30% of my life living overseas in the country where I'm not from.
For now.
For now, I still have a long time to go. However, I think that this experience of living outside of your comfort zone, it's not only about the country where you live, it's not only about the people with whom you used to interact, but it's also getting outside of the place, your core competencies, where you feel confident, where you know that you have experience in past. Going outside of this makes you stronger, this makes you more courageous, this opens your perspective on the world. And to your question, what does it mean to you, the financial independence? And financial independence, financial literacy goes hand by hand, of course. And having the broad view on the world certainly helps to realize that we have strength inside. Certainly we need to support each other, however, we first need to find the strength inside, to go outside and to earn our living, not relying on the society much. Once we find this inner strength, people will help. People will come support us. Thank you.
Thanks. Rita Eugenia Porzan is managing Automatic Ready Program for Diversity and Inclusion at UiPath. She graduated Bucharest University, Faculty of Psychology, and has a Master in Inclusive Education. In 2010, Central European University granted her a scholarship to study human rights and drug policy. With more than 20 years of experience with civil society organization and international organizations, Rita Porzan led the team that developed the first Romanian strategy on youth. Welcome, Rita. What was that about?
Thank you for the invitation. It's an honor to be here with you today.
What was that program about, the strategy on youth?
The strategy, in 2014, Romania developed several ex-ante conditionalities for attracting EU funding. Youth strategy was not on the list at that moment, but it was a good opportunity for the entity that I was working at that moment, UNICEF, to support the Romanian government to put youth and adolescents on the agenda of the Romanian government. So together with a team of experts, independent experts, that was hired by UNICEF and in support and in cooperation with the Ministry of Youth and with the Romanian government, we have developed the first Romanian strategy. It's a milestone. It's probably a historical moment because at that time Romania was the last country in EU that didn't have such a strategy. So starting from that moment, 2015, when the strategy was developed and finally approved, all the youth sector is reporting to this document as being the milestone, and they are looking at the objective and they are reporting at this.
Thank you. Let me welcome Dina Vasic, who's a full-time senior lecturer in the Finance and Accounting Department, Zagreb School of Economics and Management. She volunteered at CFA Institute since 2015 as a faculty mentor for CFA Research Challenge. She holds a BA in Economics and Management and an MBA in Finance and Banking degrees from Zagreb School of Economics and Management in Croatia, but currently she's a full-time doctoral candidate at the University of Ljubljana. And the broader area of her research is entrepreneurial finance, mergers and acquisitions in investment behavior. Dina, welcome to Bucharest. How is your experience as a faculty mentor at CFA?
Thank you very much for having me here. So, being a faculty mentor at CFA Research Challenge for a couple of years so far, it's been challenging, okay? It's really been challenging. But I believe this is the best experience we can give to our students, especially those like 5% that want 10 more than that's mandatory. I believe the CFA Research Challenge as a project is very well oriented for expanding skills for students that are going to be in the finance, in the industry one day, not one day, in a couple of months. So it's a great opportunity to work with students on projects like that. It's a great opportunity to be part of that, okay? So it also expands our views as a faculty member. We have the opportunity to cooperate with the industry mentors, pulling us back from the academia, back down to industry once again, not to forget what we learned in the faculty years. So it's a great experience.
So a lot of common ground with the next speaker, who's Livia Ilie. She is the Vice Rector of Lucian Blaga University at CEEBU, with MBA degree in Finance and a PhD in Economics. With over 2 decades of teaching and research experience and more than 10 years in academic management, she developed a particular interest in the strategic management of higher education institutions. Livia, welcome to Bucharest. How are the thoughts of your students regarding financial independence nowadays?
Hello to everybody. I'm honored to be here with you this morning, coming from CEEBU. In fact, education is at the base of what we are discussing today, because to have financial independence, first of all, we have to have a solid education in general, and then, of course, also financial education. And in this respect, we are trying in universities to develop this type of education that goes across university, across specializations, because financial education, entrepreneurial education is needed for any kind of student, regardless their major. So what we are trying now to do is to develop the knowledge and the skills that the young generation needs to adapt in this very dynamic world. And this means also entrepreneurship, means also financial skills.
Do you think that the young people in Romania do have the same worries as young people all over the world?
Yeah, of course. Same worries.
So they're not special in any respect.
We would like to be special, but I believe we have same worries like everybody in the world, and we have to struggle for whatever the world puts in front of us. And we have to be prepared for this, and this we learn since we are kids. We should learn.
Well, maybe Mihai Purcărea, CFA, will tell us more on this. He's an experienced investment professional who was involved in managing some of the largest investment funds in the CEE region in the past 10 years. He currently holds the position of CEO at BRD Asset Management. He's also board member of CFA Society Romania and the Fund Managers Association of Romania, and also an Aspen Institute fellow. Was that an enlightening experience at the Aspen Institute?
Quite a lot. And also the diversity part was quite important also on that program. Gender diversity from minorities, it was quite an experience. From the previous speaker, from Christina, I also now understand why I'm here. I have two girls.
Me too.
So I understand why I'm here and know why maybe the interest. I'm more interested in gender equality maybe than other men. I thought for a bit, and that's right. She was quite right. When I see women discrimination, I get quite mad. And now, hearing Christina earlier, I understand why. Because I'm reflecting that discrimination towards my girls, and I see them in the future like they are discriminated. And I really get angry as a dad.
Thank you for the personal thoughts. We really wanted to get to know you better. So now, I have this huge curiosity, because there are rumors that the Wall Street brain drain effect. Are best students not interested in the finance world anymore? Is that true, Axinia?
No. No, not of course.
Spreading this nasty rumor.
No, certainly there are a lot of, especially in North America, especially if you go to California area, you would see a lot of people who think that the financial profession is not just dying out, but already dead. However, it's just the nature of this area. However, of course, the financial industry is still working. Me personally, I work with financial institutions in developing countries and emerging countries around the world, helping them promote financial inclusion among the small and medium enterprises, among the women-owned businesses. The World Bank and IFC has a very big program around the gender inclusion in the financial sector. The nature of the financial sector that's changing. So I think I would like to distinguish between the existence or non-existence of finance, or interest and not interest in finance, from the type of the financial industry that we are seeing these days. It's certainly different from the commercial banking that existed 15 years ago, certainly different from investment banking that have been on the hype 10 years ago. It's technology-driven financial markets. The numerous alternative financiers that are appearing all around the world, it's not only banks, not only microfinance institutions that are currently working on the financial inclusion and the financial diversity, financial education. It's also the technology companies. It's fintechs supporting the large financial institutions, marketplaces providing financing to the underserved segments. It's telecom operators that are coming to the financial sector. It's internet companies such as Amazon and the like who are entering the financial industry. So the nature of the financial industry is changing, but it is here and it will be there for long.
So since you mentioned the fintech, maybe Rita can tell us, how is fintech disrupting financial education? I mean, should people working in financial industry start actually learning to write a code?
So I think that going back to the first question, if the students are interested in the finance world, I think that we need to look at several aspects. On one hand, we need to look at the finance world and how it's looking today for the current students, if for the best students, and if it's appealing for the best students to study finance and to remain in that field. And I'm not referring here only to the monetary aspect, which is very important. Everybody wants to have a good salary. But I think that it's very important to look at the psychological traits of the students today. And we are discussing about millennials. As Christina was mentioning before, as we want, they also want to have a purpose, they want to produce an impact in their life, they want to be creative. And what I've learned recently is that some people that have studied finance and they were best in the universities started to migrate to the tech industry. And it's interesting to see why is this happening. And we need to see what the tech companies are offering to those millennials that are migrating from one industry to another. Probably they are looking at their profiles and they are providing them the opportunity to be creative. Definitely they are providing them with the opportunity to have an impact with the products that they are developing in the tech industry. So I think that tech is not disruptive, but it's coming with some lessons and some innovations that has to be taken into considerations by other industries, and we need to cooperate together to see what is the greater good for the students and for the children to come. And if we were to look at the statistics, World Economic Forum is estimating that by 2022, half of the working population across the globe will need to be reskilled or upskilled in order to be competitive on the labor market. So this is a challenge for all the industries to start training people to start using technologies, the new technologies.
Talking about millennials, Dina and Livia, because you spend so much time in the academic environment and you probably met generations of students. What's the motivations of the millennials?
Accomplishments, where they're going to be in 2 years, what do they expect from their employers, and challenges. I believe that is like the summary. New generations that are coming actually have to be quite straight in here. They're different from country to country, but they share some set of the same skills, some same perceived behavioral controls, etc. So sometimes I believe that these kids now, I can call them kids, those are kids for me now. These kids now, they grew up in a different world, you know? They grew up with different technologies. So you were saying about fintech, it's nothing new for them, okay? It's much easier for them to transfer. And somehow, now we do have education in finance. We used to have just education in economics. But we will have also some merged areas that will provide new industries. So we're going to force our students, nowadays, new students, we're going to force them into some new and merged industries, okay? So I have to add upon the previous question. So fintech is not disrupting financial education from the perspective of educator, but it's actually adding the value. Of course, they have the same core values at the universities, but we have to adapt at the university level. What is the major problem? The governments usually and the ministries of education are limiting us because of the national curricula. There is always some kind of way to add more.
Livia, what about the millennials in Sibiu?
Millennials
what do they
Sibiu,
want in life?
They are
What's
not
their
so
purpose?
dynamic like in Bucharest, but still they have same type of changes that we have to face and challenges. In fact, they want everything immediately, and this is due to the fact that they have access to technology and a lot of information, so they don't have the necessary patience maybe to go through a process. So that's why also the education system has to change, and especially with the professors. So we have to adapt, and putting it in a larger context of entrepreneurship, maybe who should be more entrepreneurial than a teacher in class that has to constantly adapt to the new generations instead of complaining that they are different and they are no more so patient as we were. So we have to adapt to the challenges that we have in universities now, and they are due not only to the new generations that are different, and we have to adapt our methods, but it's also a challenge that comes from the environment, and especially from companies and the global world and all the technology that is changing how the world is functioning. And this means that we as universities have to become more entrepreneurial and to exit our comfort zone, which is more difficult because we are quite bureaucratic in the way we are working, or we were used to work.
But what did you notice? Do they want to be their own boss? Do they want to make a lot of money?
Not necessarily.
Do they want work balance?
Yeah, not necessarily, because it depends also on what they see around them. It's also a problem of mentality, and it's also an issue of national policies, because as long as there is a national policy that is favoring, let's say, state-owned institutions or public institutions where you have good rewards, so not necessarily they would like to go in the business where there is a lot of challenge. It's risk undertaking that we are not used. In Romania, we are not trained for this, how to take risk. I was just looking to what is happening, for instance, in Silicon Valley and Stanford, because they are, and one very important element that creates a more dynamic environment and a more entrepreneurial environment is, in Stanford, for instance, students are taught that it's okay to fail. And now we have to go down to kindergarten because it's not enough to start this when they are in the universities, already too late. This type of mentality, we don't teach it, neither at home nor in schools. So we have a lot to work on this area in order to increase their appeal to be their own boss. But usually, because for instance, it's a lot of entrepreneurship and a lot of startups in the IT sector, and in many cases our students, because they know they have good jobs in the IT sector, it's why to start a business or to be your own boss if you have a good job, so it's much comfort for them. So eventually, after some years and some experience, eventually they will decide to go in entrepreneurship. But usually when you have so many opportunities in terms of jobs in companies, then it's less appealing to start your own business.
Mihai, financial literacy is a desiderate for all economies, developed or not. Give us your opinion on what would mean a minimum package of know-how for a person to be named financially literate.
And to just save and invest monthly. This is a minimum. We have a research paper, the CFA has a research paper from 2018 when one of the topics is the failure of global retirement systems. Nobody thinks about 10 years on the road, what will happen. But the idea is that the vast majority of us will still be 10 years on the road. And if we don't take care of ourselves, we'll be a burden. And that's the most problematic. We'll be a burden for the society, for our family, for everybody. So the minimum that I would say would be is to act, not the know-how, not the know-how from academia. Because if we go and teach across the country and just telling the words, it's not enough. They have to act. So for me, a minimum is to act, and to act monthly. Not to wait for 10, 15 years until you're rich and make the biggest investments of your life. This, for the vast majority of people, will never happen. So the minimum for me is to just act now, and act monthly. Save monthly, invest monthly. That would be a minimum for me.
Good. Axinia, do you believe financial independence comes as an effect of financial education, or is it an effect of education overall?
Well, first of all, I'd like to question or put this thought in the room. How do we define financial independence? Financial independence is one thing for myself. It might be something different for you. So financial independence, the way how I see it personally, is the cash flow of the passive asset, passive income that is coming to you, to your pocket on a monthly basis and covers your expenses. What is passive income? Is when you don't work. Active income, when you go to do your job every day and you earn this income. So when we talk about the financial independence, people are striving, a lot of people striving to get to the point of the financial independence. However, in many instances, we are also missing this consideration of, do we really need this? Do we really want this? Once people reach financial independence, it means that they don't need to go to work, right? In the very simple definition of it. However, we are losing the motivation to be self-satisfied professionally. So there is always a balance of being independent financially versus your professional self-satisfaction. Now, when we talk about the how we reach there, how we reach financial independence, either it's a fully financial independence or it's just financial comfort, which I would prefer using financial comfort better than financial independence. Certainly, it's financial literacy at the first place. However, financial literacy is obviously is part of the broader educational problem, and when we talk about the gender balances, there is certainly a huge gender gap, and I'd like to highlight a few stats. When we talk about the primary education, there is around 65% parity between the education between men and women. When we talk about the lower secondary education, this goes to 45% parity. When we talk about the higher secondary education, the parity between men and women receiving the high secondary education goes to 25%. There is certainly gender gap in the access to education. In 44 countries, the proportion of population which is illiterate, more than 20%. So there is certainly global problem of access to education which drives the economic inequality. I don't want to bring, I have tons of data and statistics about the gender inequality around the world, which probably all of us are aware of. However, everything starts with knowledge. Investing in the future, investing in our children's education certainly will help to raise the financial comfort. One interesting study that has been done by OECD is the social mobility. What they found is that it takes, on average globally, 4 to 5 generations for poor people to raise to the middle income status, which means it takes around 150 years to move from the lower part of the pyramid to the middle income. In some countries, it takes only 2 generations, such as the Central European countries. In other countries, it takes 9 generations, 300 years to move up the ladder. So what can be done? What can be done for the people to move faster, to raise faster out of the poverty, to at least to the mid-income stage? Certainly education comes first. Education and access to the knowledge. Now education, what we're talking about, education in our standard understanding universities, schools, CEFA Institute, it's wonderful, it's great. However, in our digital age, access to education is becoming much easier. Remote education that has been very widespread right now in Africa, and IFC has several ongoing projects of the remote education initiatives. When we give access to young girls or women-owned businesses, we give access to knowledge. Just a very brief example of the bank that I personally worked in Palestine, Bank of Palestine. We've designed, together with the other partners, a mini MBA program for women-owned businesses, which it lasted for about 6 months, and it helped. It was already 2 rounds of these mini MBA programs, and it helped in total around 55 women-owned businesses to improve their operations. They scaled up their businesses, each of them at least twice. They got an access to a network. They raised their financial literacy, which helped them to become better off financially. Thank you.
Thanks. Rita, how do you see financial independence influencing the decision-making process when it comes to relations with other people, with employer, in terms of taking risks?
So I think that the estimations from World Bank are indicating that 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 people have basic knowledge when it comes to financial literacy. And those 1 in 3 or 4 are usually wealthy people, well-educated, with access to financial services. That means that billions of people across the globe do not possess minimum knowledge in financial education, and those people are usually women and poor people. So I think that it's very important to facilitate the access of this population to quality education, in financial education from an early age. And I'm giving you a personal example. I have a 3-year-old daughter, and when going and buying toys, usually I'm going and buy them from the boys department. Why? Because usually the toys that are provided to girls from an early age are fluffy, are promoting gender stereotypes, in like kitchens or hairdressing, things like that, which are good at the end of the day. But we need to provide other opportunities for girls from an early age. So by the time that girls are reaching 6 years of age, they have, let's say, a lower self-esteem about themselves comparing with boys, because they were differently encouraged. So, and later on in life, they do not follow a career in STEM education, they do not look into the financial fields, and you have a gender gap when it comes to tertiary education and on the labor market. If we were to refer to the field where I'm working in artificial intelligence, you have only 20% of women that are hired in this field. And this happens because somewhere in the past of that particular girl or women, the chances to fair education and to quality education were not provided. So I think that we need to rethink the entire path from an early age. So if we want to have independent adults, financially independent adults, we need to provide them with quality education from an early age.
Dina, where do you see the role of employers in supporting high level of financial education and specialization?
The role of employers?
Employers, yes.
Sponsoring events like this, sponsoring events like Research Challenge, actually forcing events like Research Challenge, because I can't say we are raising kids, but we're actually educating future employees. And those employees have to be your biggest asset, okay? So you will learn upon them. You have to provide them insights from the practice. I believe that's the biggest issue in nowadays education, as Livia said. Professors have to be entrepreneurial oriented, and then Axinia said that there is a huge ratio between female and male educators. We as educators, we cannot be just educators. Universities have to be an inclusive institutions, organizations. So we have to be tied to the practice. We have to be tied to the employers. For instance, at my university, I have close connection. We have a career center at the university, but I have a close connection to some potential employers. Every month, I get an email. We are going to open some tender. Do you have some students who wish to apply? And instantly I know. I have a couple of my best students. I have their CVs. I just send them CVs and they're actually invited for the interview. So this is what means being connected to the employers and how employers can actually add value upon the financial education, sponsor some events, sponsor their extracurricular activities, open some great internships, not cooking coffee, okay, but really great internships. So you guys, you are in the industry, please, when we send you some students for the internship, don't go like, oh, I prefer cafe latte, okay? So just give them something and let them be part of some meetings to have the experience on how this looks like. You know why? Because when we wrap up their education, they want to be managers, you know? They want to be you. They want to be investment analytics, you know, investment managers, because they watched like The Wolf from Wall Street or The Wall Street from 1985, and it looks so sexy. But when they come in some investment office, they're like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know where to start. Oh, cook a coffee. So this is what we are actually requiring from the employers as universities, give them the opportunity. And the second thing, sponsor some events. The CFA Research Challenge is a beautiful event. It's a beautiful opportunity for students. There are not so many opportunities for students like that. And please, you're in the practice, you're in the real sector, guys. Connect with professors at universities. Maybe those professors can give you the best candidates because we know them, okay? So this is what I believe is very important. Career centers are great, but we know our students by heart, okay?
Mihai, can you tell us something about your experience on your way up to the top? Did you meet a lot of, I don't know, superiors? Did you have a boss who was really concerned about your development, your improvement?
I think it's important to have mentors more than like formal boss. Mentors that you look up to, you aspire to be. Could be from somebody that you know, or could be somebody that you see on TV, on a movie, maybe, or from a book. But it's important to have mentors and to have some certain values from early on, from those mentors. Usually, you are quite right. In the business, it's hard to really have a mentor. You have a boss that tells you what to do. Do this, this, and this for your current job. But everybody wants more. Everybody wants to evolve. So I think you have to be proactive. And it was already said a few times in this panel and also previous. You have to start from early on to encourage this resourcefulness that maybe in the CEE we see it less than in other parts. When we do receive students for internship, unfortunately we see differences. Students that are studying in London from students that are coming from Romanian universities, you have a huge difference between them. The London guys or girls are more resourceful, they push you, they ask more from you. They said, okay, I've come, what can I do? Okay, I've done that, I want to do more. They are pushing. People, the interns that we have from Romanian universities, unfortunately are more like, okay, sorry to disturb you, I will sit here if you, it's our problem, it's the educational system problem. Because at the end of the day, when you go in a corporation, everybody is just focusing on their current job. You don't want to, okay, we have an intern, okay, I don't have time. And if you don't fight for yourself, nobody will. Okay, you can have some processes, some layers that you can improve, but you have to fight for yourself. So you do need mentors and you need to be pushy in order to evolve. And this, I think, can be learned from a quite early age.
Livia, how would you describe the connection between the companies in Romania and the university environment?
Yeah, in Sibiu we are very lucky from this point of view. Sibiu developed in the last 10-15 years in quite an important industrial platform there with a lot of investment, especially multinationals, and mostly focused in the automotive industry. And we are there almost the only university, so we are the university of the community, a multidisciplinary university that in fact we are able to train the experts that the community needs in different areas. So the connection came quite easy, first of all because the companies that were there were having an international experience, so they knew what means cooperation with the university. Second, also the university was quite open towards the businesses. From my point of view, this cooperation goes even better in the last decade, maybe also due to the financial and economic crisis that we went through, because up to 2008, 2010, probably each of us, let's take them as sectors, the business sector and the education sector, we were running each on our own way because we were having students a lot. Companies were having from where to hire, and this was not a problem. But this crisis brought us at the same table because from our perspective, due to demographic changes, due to all this brain drain that we face in Eastern Europe, we have less students, less demand. On the other hand, companies are under much more pressure and much more competition, so they are fighting for good workforce, for better trained people. So what they were doing, they were coming towards universities saying, look, if we wait for you to train the future graduates, the future employees, and then we hire them, it takes us 3 years probably to make out of a graduate a good employee. Because yeah, they have a background, they have maybe the knowledge, but they don't have all the skills that they need in order to adapt in a business, so it takes us 3 years in average. So this is costly. So we prefer to come near the university during the training process because they reduce costs. So from here, the type of cooperation that comes is more solid in the sense that it can be an input in terms of curricula, because we have to adapt also the curricula. It's an input because also professors should be trained. Maybe decades or centuries ago, universities were ahead of time. Now I believe companies are more ahead of time because in what concerns companies, the pressure, the competition is much more fierce, so they have to adapt. Sometimes they have important research and development centers where research goes in front of what happens maybe in a university. So also professors have to be exposed on what is going on in real life in terms of technologies, of new methods of management or whatever. And of course for the way we are doing the teaching, it should be more practical because in Romania and probably in Eastern Europe in general as compared to students coming from London or from somewhere else, it's focused too much on theory as compared to, and how we apply, how we use what we learn, okay? Internships that we have also in CBU, they are a lot, but they are not enough in the sense that the way our education system is structured, it's like in 3 years of a study program, it's compulsory 3 weeks of internship. So 3 weeks, what is 3 weeks? It's nothing, 3 weeks. So there is a lot to work on in this respect, but from my point of view, things are going very well on different layers. And the openness of businesses is huge. I believe it's higher than the openness of universities, but we start to face also competition, so we are forced to adapt too.
Dina, tell us, are the countries in former Yugoslavia facing the same big problem with the economic migration? Because we in Romania, we lose every day skilled workers. Is it the same problem for Croatia, for Slovenia?
Yes, actually the problem is in wages, but people started coming back. So we had a huge, I can't say brain drain, but last year a couple of thousands and thousands of people went from Croatia to Ireland and went to Germany and looking for a better job, better paid job. But now they're slowly coming back because there are opportunities where you do create your opportunities. You know what is the major issue in this, I can call it former Yugoslavia countries? We're used to wait for the job. Okay, I can't say for me because I was searching for my job. But when you wrap up your studies, your job is going to appear from your career center, just like up from the sky, and this is your dream job, and you're going to work at the same position for the rest of your life. So actually, this is what has to change, but it's not changing so fast. It's changing with newer generations and generations that were raised after the Yugoslavia. So we will see. Hopefully it will be better, but we have the huge issue with the brain drain currently.
Thank you so much. Well, Florentina, you're back right on time because I had no idea what to do next. Should I ask the people in the audience to put their questions?
So, Rita, I think it's fascinating that you're leading a diversity area in a 7 billion organization that has, I think, only 3,000 employees for now. So it's amazing that it's starting to address that already. What are your priorities? What are you looking at first?
Thank you for the question. We are looking at, in UiPath, at having deployed the educational programs in robotic process automation being deployed to underrepresented groups in tech. And we are looking at women because they are affected by automation currently, and because they represent great assets. And we can come up with educational content that we have developed with our academy online to train women for jobs that are needed currently in the workplace. So the program is global, and we are partnering with entities that are have the capacity to deploy this program to women. Also, we are looking at refugees across the globe, especially in Europe. Europe has faced huge crisis when it comes to refugees, and also they represent a huge resource that has to be trained also in relevant jobs for the labor market. And we are also looking at people with disabilities. One of the main products that UiPath developed is the Academy, and at the level of the Academy we have several trainings in RPA, in robotic process automation. People across the globe can enroll in the training and can develop RPA developers, and with that certification that is provided by the Academy, they can get a job in our networks of partners. So I think that we can adjust our trainings to be fitted and customized for the needs of people with disabilities, because they can also have the opportunity to have a job in the field. And this is one layer of intervention in what we are doing in UiPath when it comes to diversity and inclusion. Also, our CEO took a commitment recently to increase the number of women in a leadership position. And we are also doing try to make to bring much more women in the leadership position within UiPath. Also, there are leadership programs within UiPath that are currently implemented, and we are trying to bring more women and more minorities engaged into that process. So we are doing many things when it comes to the diversity and inclusion, and it's just the beginning. The company is quite new, as you know, and I think that it's great that the company started to think about diversity and inclusion from an early stage of development, and I think that this has to do a lot with the fact that some of the founders are females, and because of the males, founders are open to diversity and inclusion.
It's very important because we should start there, in kindergarten probably. And companies and NGOs may play an important role developing all kinds of programs. I already know, for instance, banking institutions that are already developing such programs. But from my point of view, maybe it will be even more important to try to develop a kind of program for teachers, because generations are changing, so it's like you will have another job just to train all the new generations that are coming or develop programs for them, but probably better it will be to try to sing a kind of program for teachers that then can change their methods in the way they are working with the kids so that they get the financial skills that they need for their life and for their professions. So from my point of view, I will see there a kind of joint effort of the business community to in training professors. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. That's why there are already programs initiated by companies, and we as university, we were involved in such programs. Of course, also because we are discussing from primary school. And I do hope that also at the government level, there will be the necessary openness so that we can start there.
Just few remarks to your question. I think that there are several entry points to address this issue. On one hand, if you are to discuss about early education, you have as a potential entry point the parenting programs that are providing to parents across the globe and in Romania as well. And there are some good practices in Romania that are implemented by different NGOs. So this could be a great entry point if we want to have financial education from an early age deployed to children, girls and boys. Also, I think that we need to look at what's the Ministry of Education doing in this regard, and to see what are the priorities for the next years. I think that currently it has 4 or 5 strategies when it comes to education, and one is related to the quality of tertiary education and vocational educational training. Probably the companies can come up with evidences from the field and good practices on how to improve the strategies and later on the action plans.
I'm not from Romania, but may I just add one small thought? You're just talking about what if, okay? Tomorrow, starts tomorrow, okay? You guys from the industry, try to find some professors that you actually feel like they're eager to cooperate with you, okay? Just go there. Just connect with them, just call them, send them an email, okay? Don't go through the government because you will wait for a long, long time. If you have some project, maybe you have tax deductible donations, something like that, maybe you have some project, try to include those students. Don't go through government because it takes time, okay? And this is what I learned. And you as real sector people, if you have some projects upcoming, go and find those professors, maybe sponsor those professors to go abroad and to bring home best practices, okay? And this is how your future employees, will learn. And this is reacting now. This is not reacting tomorrow because there is some program that is actually going to be very well done in a couple of years. Like it's in a couple of years, 10 or 15 years ago when I was a student, I didn't have WhatsApp. Now, on my cell phone, I have a group with every single group of my students, I have a group on WhatsApp, okay? I didn't have those technologies. Now I do have those. But I'm not going to think about, we have those technologies, what are we going to do with those technologies tomorrow? You're too late, okay? So you guys from the real sector, especially in Central Eastern Europe, start reacting right away, okay? Sorry.
I think that it's complementary. On the longer term, and in order to have a sustainable intervention and have the financial education included in the curriculum, you need to work with those that are handling it. This is one, and I think that the private sector can come up with good practices. On another hand, and this is very complementary to what you said, I think that we need to do what we have to do with what we have, where we are. So to start from today and from tomorrow to implement such programs for our children and for the youth.
Well, I totally agree with you, Dina, but I would still go to the government and put some pressure on it.
For a bit of gender diversity, we'll have a man ask a question as well. So you were talking a little bit earlier about financial independence and kind of linking back to the financial education question that was previously. And maybe the panelists from university and IFC can best respond to this. I mean, financial independence, if I was a company, and I am a company, and let's say I was a CEO, I wouldn't necessarily want my people to be financially independent because then they might not work for me anymore. So from that perspective, maybe the focus shouldn't be on companies pushing through on some education on this, but perhaps more at a lower level, which is universities and even lower. And that's not happening at this moment. And so my question would be from that perspective, you know, universities, IFC, and other institutes like this, how can we push through some sort of financial planning education at a younger level so that people can actually get this opportunity if they wish to pursue something else more entrepreneurial and so on and so forth?
Thank you so much for the question. Let me start from the IFC side. I would not completely agree with the point that you don't want your employees to be financially independent. You would like them to be financially happy. If they are not satisfied with their financial level, they will not make you happy as a CEO of the company, as an employer. They will not be productive, they will not be efficient, they will be fishing around for the new jobs. So certainly as an employer, we have to care about the current situation of our employees and also the future. And that's where the tree comes in. How can we help our employees to become better off in the future? And that's an important topic about the private wealth management and how we help our colleagues, our employees to understand why do we need to save. The saving question is probably these days even more important for financial well-being than credit or the other side of the banking balance sheet. Thinking long term, why do you need to set aside a certain amount of money now in order to be independent or financially well in the future? That's where the big companies, financial institutions, banks can come in and help. The country, one of the most developed countries in the world, the United States of America, 66% of the population do not save. More than the half of the population do not have $1,000 emergency saving reserve. Just imagine what's happening in other countries if even in this country this situation is so struggling. Providing the early on education of how you can plan for the future, that's quite important. At the IFC, for example, we have training for all staff on how you can allocate your pension fund assets, because we have a plan that we can invest in certain capital markets instruments, but we are 5,000 people organization, so you would imagine that not everybody would be financially literate to understand that I'd like to invest in bonds and stocks and also in some T-bills, just because everybody has different background. So we have internal program educating our staff on what are the right way of allocation of your assets for the future benefit of when you retire in 20, 30 or 5 years from now, right? Everybody has different horizon. Planning for the future, but earlier comment about the investment and active investment every day, every week, every month, I would be a little bit cautious here because we need to start with the basics. We first need to understand, in order to save, we need to learn how to spend. When we have certain amount of money at our disposal, what are we going to do? Are we going to go and shop around for things that we were dreaming about, go for vacation, buy a new car, buy a new house, or something like this? Or we first set out our baseline and rules, how we spend in relation to our earnings. Then we are setting up the, as I call it, emergency reserve. And only after this, we start thinking about the savings for future. And only the remaining part goes to the investment for gaining rentals from those investments. So I think that this thinking, or helping our colleagues, our employees think through the planning, what you would like to reach with your wealth right now. It might be big wealth, it might be small wealth, it's still your asset. I think that's important. That's the role of the employees, to help and educate their staff.
Partially, I would not agree with Aksenia, but I'm referring to a question. Having happy employees will actually attain you very happy organization. Having employees that don't have financial education means that they cannot be a good asset for your company. And secondly, forcing people to saying financial literacy is framed around savings. Banks are just one option, so it's framed around investments as well in major portion. And having very well educated people from the very primary years, from the kindergarten, it goes around maybe not only about the education, but also about raising up kids.
Yeah. I was just going to say that I completely agree with both of you. I'll just kind of clarify that, they could be perfectly happy as employees, or we could be perfectly happy in various roles as employees, but also spend all our money and be financially educated, but not very good at financially planning. So that's what I'm kind of leaning towards.
If I could add to that, there are usually two events in our lives for which we need to be prepared. So financial independence doesn't mean that I don't have to work tomorrow. But it means that I have to be prepared for two events. One is retirement. Okay, it's very long term, but honestly, if Otto von Bismarck, like 150 years ago, didn't invent the Pillar 1 system, nobody would have a pension right now. Because we don't want to think about 30 years from now. So one is retirement. The second one, it's a period when statistically we have the most expenses in our lives. This is the year before we die. And I don't want to be gloomy, but 30% of the people in this room will have cancer probably in the next 10, 15 years. That's a statistic. And we will spend the vast majority of our money to save our lives. This is the reality. We like to think of it or not, it's a reality. And to be financially independent means to be prepared for these two events. Don't be a burden when you do retire, and don't be a burden when you have a financial health issue. And both of them will have them, regardless that we want them or not. Sadly, the reality, at least in CEE, is that the vast majority of people don't have health insurance. The vast majority, at least in Romania, but I think also in other CEE countries. So we do not have health insurances. We do not have money for like 6 months or 1 year ahead in order to plan, in case we have a problem. And we are not prepared for retirement. The assets, the usual asset that we have for retirement is our home, that probably will sell, move into a smaller home, and hopefully we'll have a pension. But we need to be prepared for these two events, not to retire like a 30-year, be a millionaire and stay on the beach. And unfortunately, this is a real problem that we see in our societies, that people are not prepared anymore. And even more, like we have some research done, millennials are even less prepared than our generation or the generation behind it. Because they want to live the moment now. Not tomorrow, I don't care about tomorrow. Now I want to live the moment. I earn 1,000 euros per month, I want to spend it, I want to have fun. Okay, it's all good and true, but who'll take care of you when you have a problem? And that's, we need to think about it, and we need to educate, especially the younger generations.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all the interesting questions. I mean, that's all for now. We will take a short coffee break, but after that we will have another interactive session. We will be talking about women as leaders, efficiency and inspiration, and I'm sure that we have plenty of both in this room, efficiency and inspiration. See you later. Stay with us.